Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Windy City Chronicle podcast. I am your host and founder of Windy City Chronicle, Thomas Gibbons. I'm along here with Patt. He's one of my contributing writers on Windy City Chronicle. We're on the air today for about an hour 15, hour 30 if we can push the time a little bit. NBA deadline's coming up this week. NHL deadline is a few weeks away. We got the big Super Bowl tomorrow, and Cubs spring training is right around the corner. Another Harper rumor was circulating on Twitter this morning, so we'll get into that. Always fun getting the rumor mill going. So we'll jump right into it. Alex, how's it doing, man?
Oh, it's going just fine. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Always love deadline. Deadline time is an exciting time of the year. Got probably a good 5 or 6 guys on Twitter notifications. Woj and all those guys. So it's always a fun time to see who the contenders get and who, your team sells off or buys off. And for both the Bulls and the Blackhawks, it's going to be a selling year.
Yeah, and I mean, selling years are interesting for your team, kind of depending on the position you're in. I think you look at the Bulls and you say, well, they'll probably be selling some guys, but you're not going to get anything drastic in return. The Blackhawks, they've made some trades throughout the season, and I think good trades throughout the season. I just don't know if there's going to be anything big left to sell. There were rumors about Duncan Keith, but we'll talk about that when we get to hockey. But when it comes to the NBA and the Bulls particularly, you could probably look at a few guys like Jabari Parker or Robin Lopez and say, yeah, they'll probably be shipped off somewhere, but I don't suspect we're going to get a whole lot in return.
No, yeah, and the thing with guys in the Bulls like Parker and Lopez, you look right away. You look at their salary hits for this year. Again, they're expiring contracts, so you wouldn't think that it would be too tough to move. But considering a lot of contenders are really tight on money right now, they would love to get those guys in the buyout market. But the Bulls really don't have a history, or I don't see the Bulls buying them out because you're giving those guys close to everything, and it's not like it's going to affect you long term. Well, the Bulls are going to want to get assets for him, as any of us would.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, either first-round draft picks or assets of any kind, and I mean actual assets that could have value, not like the Cameron Paynes of the world.
Yeah, or the infamous cash considerations that has become a pretty good trend in Chicago.
I didn't even want to say that, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what we've been trading for. And the one thing I wanted to bring up really quickly was. We're going to be saying goodbye to Carmelo Anthony, who was waived yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday.
Played 0 games as expected. 0 points, 0 assists. Obviously, it's just think about the last few years. We've had Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo, and technically Carmelo Anthony. If you would have told me that in 2010, I would have said, man, they added some big names to their core. They probably won a few championships, right? Quite the opposite. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. You wish you would get, those group of guys in their primes. And, it's not like, the Bulls tried. They were part of the Melo tour when he was in free agency. They tried to get Dwayne Wade before he joined up with LeBron and Bosh in Miami. So, they did their due diligence, but going into the summer, you don't have a lot of faith in the front office that, are they going to keep Jim Boylan? Are they really going to be in play for some of these free agents? I would think if you want to really be realistic, you're probably going to be out of the running for guys like Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard. But there's a lot of middle of the road guys that, would be enticing for maybe the Bulls to pick up, guys like Tobias Harris or Chris Middleton, guys that are role players. But then again, as good as those guys are, you got to have superstars in the league to win. And, how long do you want to be in the middle of the road or the bottom of the league? That's why the Lakers right now are all in for Anthony Davis, because you want to pair a guy like him with LeBron for the last couple seasons of his career. LeBron seems to never slow down, but you never know when it's going to come. So you want to bring a championship to LA. You want LeBron to get another championship. But, in one world, you want to get a superstar. But then in another world, you're looking at the Lakers, who are trading away, almost going to trade away every single player that they developed in their own building and they develop to win a championship with. I mean, the rumor last night that came out on Twitter was, I think the Lakers' first offer for Anthony Davis, reported by agent Wojnarowski of ESPN, was, I think, Lonzo Ball, Kuzma, Rondo, Beasley, and a first-round pick. I mean, I'd say no to that just because, you just can't throw me Rajon Rondo and Beasley, guys that aren't going to help me win in the long run. I mean, those are, rental contracts. If you really want to get serious, you probably have to include Brandon Ingram. And then, I can't think of his name, their young star center for the Lakers. I mean,
I know who you're talking about. The name is escaping me too, but yeah, I mean, exactly to your point, you're going to want draft picks and young assets, not veteran rentals.
Yeah, and as good as Michael Beasley has played this year, he's got some solid minutes. Rajon Rondo is, all his teammates like to speak highly of how hard he works and how much he knows of the game. And I mean, even now there's talk of him, becoming a very popular NBA coach in the future, or, start coaching somewhere just because, players love him so much. I mean, we saw when he was on the Bulls, Bobby Portis and, guys like Bobby couldn't stop talking about him just because his basketball IQ and his leadership and how well he does with the young guys. And
I'm actually surprised. Looking back, I'm surprised how much I ended up liking Rajon Rondo towards the end, because when they signed him, I'm like, oh God, why are they bringing this guy in? And it was still a silly plan. It never got the Bulls anywhere. It just got them a playoff game and some extra money in Jerry's pocket. But I got to say, I did enjoy watching Rondo play down the stretch.
Well, yeah, because, Rondo almost won us a playoff series versus Celtics until he got hurt. I mean, that's why we all fell in love with him.
Yeah, that game 2 he had before he got hurt, he basically put the Bulls on his back.
Yeah, he did. And I guess that's where, a guy like Rondo is valuable, even though, the Lakers are, trying to dump him. I mean, if I were the Pelicans in that spot and I got that trade offer, I'd probably just laugh.
Of course.
I mean, again, you got maybe two foundational pieces in Lonzo and Kuzma. I mean, Lonzo Ball doesn't have as high as numbers, but again, he's on a crowded team. But I mean, I think Lonzo's going to be an okay pro, and Kuzma was, I believe, a second-round pick, and they developed him quite well. But
nowhere near enough the value of Davis. Like nowhere close.
No, you got to trade. You got to give him Ball, first-round pick, Kuzma and Ingram if you really want to get talking, and they're probably going to want more because again, the Pelicans, he wants out, so they're going to sell high, and the Lakers know that AD wants to be in LA. So, if you really want it that bad, then are you really willing to give up everything and really throw this season out? Because you're not going to win a championship with as good as a duo of LeBron and AD can be. If you're giving away all those young assets, I mean, who do you got left? You got Stevenson left, Rondo, Beasley. I mean, even in Miami, LeBron had way better players, around him that, obviously maybe weren't stars, but they were better role players than what the Lakers would have if they gave away all those young assets.
Yeah, Mario Chalmers was a decent depth guy. Birdman, as creepy as he was a decent depth guy.
Shane Battier, Ray Allen. I mean,
Ray Allen. That's right. Ray Allen was on those teams.
Yeah, he did.
I forgot about that.
Miami did a great job of surrounding, their big three with guys who can give you, 20, 25 minutes a night and help you win, really give you something.
Yeah, because I mean, that first year he was in Miami, they lost to the Mavericks. That was kind of their problem, is they didn't have the depth. But when they won the titles from 12 to 13, I mean, that's really when you saw that whole team come together from top to bottom. And, you saw the teams in Cleveland where you had similar problems. But yeah, those Miami teams that won the championships at least had more of a complete squad together.
Yeah, and, I'm not. If the Lakers, if I got AD and I had LeBron together, I wouldn't be too worried about my future first, about getting assets in the next 2 or 3 years, because you're hoping that LeBron and AD are huge assets and you can surround those guys with veterans. But, I mean, if I were a GM, it would just be hard for me to part, no matter who. I mean, I could be trading for AD, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, to part with all my guys that I drafted, I brought in, and, I developed, and I've seen them develop into possible all-stars and maybe future all-pro guys. So it'd be hard for me to make the deal.
Yeah, for sure. And now here's my question. if you have AD and LeBron on that team, and say you get rid of a lot of young assets, a first round pick, but you still have a couple veteran guys like Rondo left on the team, does that beat Golden State? Because I still am not really sure it does.
No, I mean that's going to be the question until that Golden State team, gets disbanded, which could be this summer with Durant and Klay Thompson leaving. But I mean, they still got a lot of good pieces there. But I mean, going back to your question, I mean that's become the question. I mean, that used to be the question when LeBron was in Cleveland the past couple of years. Can anyone beat Cleveland? Can anyone beat the Warriors? And before it used to be, can anybody beat the Spurs? I mean,
Yep.
you're always going to be the question of who can beat the top dog. And I mean, it's just hard to say they can. I mean, look at the Bucks, the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, as they were really, I mean, they got a really good team put together.
That is a special squad up there in Milwaukee, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, I was not for them firing Jason Kidd, but I mean, they decided to move on. I mean, I thought Kidd really brought that team along and really formed in what it is today. And they dumped him because if you're not winning, they got to put the blame on somebody.
Yeah, I feel like with Jason Kidd, the way I see it is he was the right guy to start bringing things together and kind of getting the rebuild off the ground, and then bringing somebody else once it kind of got off the ground. So
Yeah,
it all worked out for them in the end.
I mean, I guess they didn't see him as a long-term guy. I mean, you could say the same thing with the Warriors and coach before Steve Kerr, Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
Mark Jackson built that whole team up, and he was 1 year away from winning it all, and they
Yep.
let him go. I mean, as good as Steve Kerr is, you wanted to see Jackson win it all with the team he brought up.
Absolutely.
But I mean, again, let's go back to the Bucks. I mean, as good as the Bucks are, can they beat the Warriors? Your conscience is going to tell you no.
No, of course not.
So I mean, that's the thing with super teams. It's becoming such a hot topic that AD requesting a trade. Everyone is against these formation of super teams, and everyone likes to talk about all these super teams now, and there were so many. It's kind of bottoming out the NBA because there's so many teams that don't have the stars that are at the bottom of the league or can't compete with the teams that do. Look back at the '90s. Excuse me. I mean, look back at the '90s. There was like 15 or 16 teams that were balling out. Now it's the top three, the top four. I mean, that's just how the league is trending. It's the same thing going back to what I said earlier, that you need a superstar to win. You hope that Markkanen becomes a superstar or Levine becomes a star in the league, and that's still very possible for the Bulls. But that's why the Lakers are willing to give up assets and picks to get AD, because it's a star-driven league.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a bunch of teams that compete every year, but they can't really go anywhere. Look at Boston the past few years. Now, Boston probably has as good a chance of anybody in the Eastern Conference now to make it. Look at the Raptors. The Raptors had good 50-plus win teams year after year, and they couldn't get past LeBron James. Now, LeBron's gone, so they may have a better chance, but yeah, you're right. There's a lot of teams out there that were good, but just couldn't get over the hump. You could kind of say that about the Bulls, the Derrick Rose Bulls, but I guess that was more of an issue of injuries. But
Yeah.
they had two key years in which they had a legitimate shot, 2011 and 2015, but they still couldn't get past LeBron, whether it was the Cavs or the Heat.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron was a Bulls killer. I mean, we got so close. We just, you couldn't pass LeBron. It was
They
tough.
should have won. They should have beaten them in 2015.
Yeah,
They really blew that.
they did, and I mean that's as close as they got. I mean, it was tough.
You remember? I still think of that game 4 at the United Center. All they had to do was make some of their shots, and they would have won that series.
Yeah, and now look where we are now. We were so close. Yeah, we're yet so far.
I'm looking at the Bulls cap space right now. I'm looking at spottrack.com, and you see the numbers. And I mean, overall, it's not like the Bulls are on a tight cap. But man, I'm just looking at Cristiano Felicio is taking up nearly $9 million of cap space.
Yeah, he's got he's got a good number on the cap to warm up the bench and fill the water cups. He's got a nice deal going for himself.
Well, Garpax thinks he does a great job at being really gritty when it comes to filling up those water jugs.
Yeah, that was a tough contract extension to swallow. I understand he had a good season, and with all the NBA money now, agents are going to be vying for a lot. And it's good the NBA cap keeps going up because then Felicia's contract just looks marginal. It's really not going to affect their long-term plans. And who knows if he's going to have any value, or if you can dump him off somewhere next year in the last year of the deal, or whatever. But it's not going to be that much of a cap crunch. I mean, it'd be nice to have an extra couple million for maybe a backup veteran guard or something like that. But so let's dive into the Bulls deadline. They got a couple pieces they can move again, like we said, Ru Lopez, Jabari Parker. But again, those guys would do very well on the buyout market because there would at least be 5 or 6 teams vying for their services. Parker, as poor as the defense has been this year, we've seen that he can be a pretty good scorer. I like Jabari on offense. I do. I mean, I liked the move when they brought him in. I thought he was going to be a great piece. I didn't watch him that closely in Milwaukee to see that his defense is not where it should be, especially for a guy like his size. He can, he's pretty. I mean, he's not that athletic, but I thought he was going to be more athletic than he was.
I think the injuries have kind of taken a toll on that.
Yeah, I mean, they have taken a toll on his athleticism, I bet, but he gets his shots. He can settle for the outside shot, or he can go down to the post. He's made some pretty good moves to the bucket this year, so it's not like he's been terrible. And that's why teams are going to be interested. They just don't want to take on $20 million for this year. And a team, a contending team, they're already pretty tight on space. So again, that's why the buyout market is going to be so good for him, because he'll just play for the veteran minimum. Same with Lopez.
It's funny. You talked about Jabari Parker's size. I actually sat next to him at a Chicago Sky game last summer. Dude is huge.
Yeah, I mean, my uncle and I are lucky enough to, we sit first row. He's got season tickets to the United Center. We sit first row behind the visitor basket. And, every time I go to the game, I still can't believe how big these people are. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, even the, guards like Chris Dunn and Steph Curry, I mean, they're still just so tall. And you just can't believe it.
Yeah, I know. It is really crazy. Like, you don't always realize it on TV, but it's really with any sporting event you go to, you don't realize just how big they are until you're there in person. Even when you sit in the 300 level, you look and you're like, wow. A few years ago, I saw the Bulls play the Pacers, and Roy Hibbert was still on the team, and that guy just towered over everybody.
It's a big human being. It's been a tradition. We've gone to Bulls Timberwolves every year since the Jimmy trade, because you got to. That's going to be. Now the Tibbs is gone, Jimmy's gone. It's not the rivalry that people wanted it to be. So
we still see D Rose though.
Yeah, but the Tibbs Butler versus the Bulls, that was short lived. I went to both of those games at the UC, but like Karl Anthony Towns is just a freak.
Yeah.
So it's fun to sit that close and see those guys at full speed. It is something. It's crazy.
It's like these days I kind of want to go to some Bulls games, not to really watch the Bulls, but to see who they're playing. I'll be honest with you. If I was at that Golden State game, they got killed at home, I would honestly just be entertained by all those threes that Klay Thompson would be drilling. I just watched that in amazement.
You watched the game and you were listening, if you're watching the game or listening to the radio that day, like I was listening to the radio on the way home, and the crowd was going nuts for Klay Thompson.
They were. Yeah.
At some point, you just got to say, I'm watching history and forget my favorite team. Take off the jersey. It's time to support the Warriors.
It's kind of like when a pitcher has a no-hitter going on the road and some fans just kind of want to see history there.
Yeah, of course. That's true. The past couple of years, I'm not just going to see the Bulls. I'd like to go see the Bulls, of course, see the young guys they got, but I'm picking the marquee matchups. like I'm trying to go to the Bulls Celtics in February because I want to see, Irving and Tatum and Brown and Rozier. I want to see those. I want to see those guys. See those guys up close.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah. That is a good one. I would like to see like Bulls Raptors or something.
Oh yeah.
That'd be a good matchup to watch.
Bulls Sixers is coming up. That's a national television game, so that should be fun.
TNT Bulls.
I think it's an ESPN game. TNT Bulls are great.
Oh, aren't there no TNT Bulls games this year?
No, not this year. But if we get Zion, we should have the home opener for sure.
Yeah, my brother will be going crazy for the TNT Bulls.
I mean, TNT Bulls is the greatest winning streak, ever. I mean, it's just fun.
My brother trademarked that hashtag TNT Bulls.
He really did?
Yeah, he came up with that.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and Nick Friedel in his column talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Starting that from the ground up. I mean, that really picked up steam just because, as bad as the Bulls were, you got something to hold on to.
Yeah, and I think it was like, I don't know if you ever followed Cubs no-hit streak online, but when he treated every TNT Bulls game kind of like Cubs no-hit streak, and when they were in danger of losing a TNT game, like he would get all nervous, like tweeting like nervously, so it was pretty funny.
And like you think of all the games during the TNT Bulls, I mean they just came to play. I mean it was something about TNT. I mean, I think one of my favorite ones of the TNT Bulls, I remember it was an Etuan Moore game winner versus OKC.
Oh, I remember that one. Yep.
That was a classic one. I mean, there were just so many good ones. It's always good when you get Bobby Portis flexing and crazy eyes. Bobby Portis was balling the other night in Miami.
Yeah, I didn't see the box score, but I heard he did really well.
Yeah, he had like 23, he had like 13 in the fourth or something. He was pulling the Bulls down the stretch. I mean, there's a guy who could draw some interest at the deadline. Again, like, do you really want to invest long-term in Bobby when he's not going to start over Wendell and Laurie? I mean, do you really want to have a $12, $13 million player off the bench? Like, that's where you just got to come to terms with, we could see him in the future, but, I don't want, you don't want to put all the money on the bench. As good as he may contribute, you want to pay starters the big money and the bench guys maybe a little less because, a contract that, Bobby could want is like what Miles Turner got from the Pacers.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's a big contract, and that's going to, Bobby's going to go right away to that because here's a guy in your division. He's in my same conference. My numbers might be a little better, so, why can't I get Miles Turner money, Garpax? Like, that's going to be the starting point. I mean, that's like for all guys in free agency. The same guy who's playing my position, we're going to start there.
Yeah, it's kind of, I look at Bobby Portis and like Denzel Valentine. You see the talent and you see them being solid depth players, but that's what they are, depth players. And could you trade him now for something really valuable, or do you want to pay him a lot of money to be a solid depth player? That's where you kind of have to start thinking about the future in terms of, money.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And if you really feel like you have a chance at the guys like Durant and Klay Thompson, then you can't be giving Bobby $12, $13 million a year.
Right. And now, do I think the Bulls are going to land any of those guys? No, but you also have to, in this part of the game, you have to at least make yourselves available for the possibility.
Yes. Because, you could get Durant, who is going to hate some guy's offer, and then he's going to be like, what the hell? I got a free day. Let's go visit Chicago. Because you never know what's going to happen. I really thought we had a good chance with Melo. When LeBron did his tour, the Bulls got to sit down, and the Bulls were in the decision, on ESPN, which I watched, and I was very upset that day, even though I hated LeBron. You want the best player to join your team.
Of course. Now, do you remember, and look, this was a long time ago, it was 2010. I don't know if you remember, but I remember there was a rumor circulating that LeBron was going to the Bulls, and they just had to finalize the deal. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember talking to like my cousins about that or something.
You know what? I probably don't, but I wouldn't be shocked because, that was kind of around when Twitter was picking up steam, and anybody could tweet out a rumor and you're going to get likes and retweets all day. I mean, me and you could do the same thing. People just go crazy when they Google Bryce Harper, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a rumor.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, that's how it goes. I mean, that's why Twitter can be very misleading because there's a lot of people out there who say they have sources, and people are going to roll with it because they're like, "Ooh, here's news. I'm going to roll with this. This guy's good. I'm following him." All of a sudden, these guys pick up steam, and they're just blowing smoke.
And the other thing is, I think people sometimes give those kinds of tweeters some credibility because there have been moves in the past, not necessarily NBA. I'm talking more like baseball, but we've seen random accounts tweet out rumors that ended up being true. Like
Yeah,
the Jose Quintana trade, like two random accounts tweeted that before anybody else tweeted about it.
yeah, that's right.
So when you see stuff like that, people are going to be like, "Oh, well, these people may have legit sources." I don't.
Yeah.
So you're going to run into that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you never know if that guy has, some guy in the front office or some guy in the ticket sales office. You don't know.
Right.
He's getting some news. He's going to tweet it out, and it's like, what was that? There was one story. I mean, it might have been about, I forgot who it was. Maybe it was like, about maybe Gronk retiring or something. A lot of news breaks on Reddit now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like people with all the like those funny usernames become popular. When people like Schefter and Woj share the names of the usernames that tweeted it first because they're going to give the credit, and
Yep.
it's like some weird username on Reddit, but somehow they beat everybody else to the punch.
Right. Yeah. So that's why you see a lot of credibility given that may not be necessary, but it is given by some fans to some of these random people tweeting things. And, most of the time it's blowing smoke, but every now and then it's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll circle back to the Bulls. Zach Lowe of ESPN said the other day that the Bulls are pretty much making everyone available besides Markkanen and Carter Jr. And, Levine's not on that list, but I think it's smart that, you want to keep the two big men. I mean, that's the guys I would put as untouchable right away. I don't think the Bulls would be dumb to listen to offers for Levine. He's averaging over 20. As there's been stretches where he hasn't been his best, but he is a natural scorer. I like that part of his game. The defensive analytics still show that he's one of the worst in the league. But I mean, he gets to the rim. He's got a good shot. He's really not. He's not going to rack up the assist numbers, or he's not going to crash the boards like a lot of other guards do today. But I think he can still be a good piece if you surround him with better players. I think that's when you put him with a star, or if him and Dunn and Markin really take off in these last 30 games here of the season, then then maybe you find out that they are the big three that we thought we got.
Plus, Levine's got to be healthy.
Yeah, it's another thing. Just he's got these ankle flare ups the past couple weeks. I think he's going to be good to go with that right ankle, but that left ankle was sitting around, was lying around for a little bit. So that's the big thing, health. We got to see him go full go. But I mean, it really isn't crazy that the Bulls aren't going to listen to offers for him. It's not crazy to listen to offers for anybody because you never know what you're going to get blown away with. But I mean, it's not bad to say that Levine's a one-dimensional player.
Yeah, he really is.
And I mean, it's not like, he has shown us plenty in Chicago that make us say like, yeah, I want to keep this guy. I think we can build a championship with him. But there's plenty of stuff where like, my heart wouldn't be broken if they moved on from him.
No, I mean, really, the only person I would be mad if they got rid of was Lauri Markkanen. That's really it.
I mean, as much as I liked Wendell Carter in his rookie campaign so far, he hasn't shown me a ton where I would, be sobbing at the computer. Markkanen has showed us everything on the offensive side, defense. I mean, he's going to 2 straight All-Star weekends. I mean, he's an up and coming star in the league. I mean, he can take it to the hole. He can, he's got a good outside jumper. He's working a little more in the post, especially when he gets the matchup he likes off screens or whatever like that. And I really think he's, when we drafted him, I didn't know too much about him, but now it looks like that he can really be the centerpiece of the team going forward through, this rebuild and, hopefully the next coming years. So yeah, I'd say, you listen to offers for everybody, but you're probably letting everybody know that Markkanen's off the table.
Yeah, like I said, he would be the one guy I would be upset if they moved on from. And then maybe Wendell Carter Jr., because you've seen some good things, you've seen some bad things, but he's also, 19, 20 years old. So it's really those two guys that I definitely hang on to. You can find good deals for anyone else, then I by all means. Jabari Parker was really brought here to be traded, in my opinion. It was a sign and trade type thing. Even if the deal just raw doesn't look like that. But when you look at the way the cap was front loaded on the deal, you knew it was basically a sign and trade. It was more or less a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, part of it was, here's a 1-year tryout. Can you be a part of this rebuild long term? Or, at some point, are we going to be like, he's putting up good numbers. Let's test the market. Someone's going to want him. And I still think teams do. I mean, I would want, some bench scoring from Parker. Robin Lopez could really be a starting center in the league. He's like kind of like Tim Duncan a little bit. He's like Mr. Fundamental. I like Rolo's game a lot.
I feel bad for him because he's, had to sit out so many games when he could easily play and easily put up, solid numbers for his position. Because you remember when he first came here, he was probably one of the best Bulls on the court.
He was, easily one of the best parts of the Rose deal, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, he was a big piece in that. I like his post game. He's got a good jumper. He's going to be active on the defensive end. He's a leader in the locker room.
Great teammate. Yeah,
guys love him. He's, you've seen it with like the mascots and stuff pregame. He's just a goofy guy. He's a good guy to be around. But he can average a double-double for you every night, and that's why, in the buyout market, contenders would love adding a guy like Lopez who can give you 10 to 12 minutes a night. But the $14 million on the cap this year is really going to take away value. And remember last year, the Bulls really could have moved Lopez at the deadline last year and got a first-round pick because, teams were really in need of centers. And his value was a lot higher back then because he was playing every night. But the Bulls decided to keep Holiday and Lopez for a veteran locker room presence when they could have traded him for another asset.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be traded last year. I really did.
Yeah, I thought so too. He was picking up steam. And, you're kind of playing that game of, we're not going to let the locker room fall away, but, we want an asset. So, it kind of is a hard game to play because, with such a young team, you need leaders like that. But, I would have loved the first-round pick.
Oh, yeah. That's, in my opinion, that's really what's most important. They had nothing to play for anyway the rest of the year. And, they didn't find the deal for him. And then next thing you knew, he was wearing suits on the sideline.
Yeah.
When he could have easily played. Which I get for tanking purposes, but it still kind of sucks for him.
Yeah, it does. It is rough. Rolo's probably one, top, he's one of the best players on the team. And, he fell out of the rotation with whether it's Hoiberg or Boylan, just because, you want to see the younger guys play and, you're tanking when you're not coming out and saying it. So,
right.
What was it? Yesterday, the Bulls made that minor move. They got a guy from Oklahoma City. All I've seen about him is he's a former lottery pick by the Sixers. The Bulls intend on keeping him, so it wasn't just a trade and dump. So shooting guard, we'll see. He'll probably get some backup minutes with Hutch gone. They'll probably throw the rotation around a little bit, but again, it's another flyer. I think we won the Memphis Grizzlies trade with Holiday because I like what I've seen out of Wayne Selden so far.
Yeah, Holiday was whatever. I think if you got anything with that trade, it was going to be a win.
Yeah, Selden's a flyer. He's a pretty good. He's an okay defender. He's not really a slashing guard. He's got a good outside shot. He was pretty key in that Miami win too. He was making some shots down the stretch.
Yeah.
So again, it's like Shaq Harrison, the Bulls. That's what you do in a rebuild. You take some flyers. You find out who can give you some backup minutes on a good team, and the Bulls aren't there yet. But Selden and Shaq Harrison can be players on a good team. Hopefully they stick around, and again, you'll see what happens this summer if the team starts to form up, or the Bulls miss out on everybody, and they're dealing with the bottom of the barrel in free agency.
Well, hopefully our draft will bring us something.
Yeah.
Did you see the latest from today? The Zion highlights. That guy is scary good.
Yeah, they were talking on ESPN the day about him. it's when you talk about the great athletes of the world, you talk about Kobe, LeBron, Brady, all those guys are referred to as one name. It's like a brand. Zion is one name. No one says Zion Williamson, it's Zion. Just to have a guy like that, not just an athlete, but a brand. I mean, that's, he's already a star and he's 19 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at the athleticism and the strength. It's crazy.
Yeah. And for a guy his size, the way he moves, his shot blocking is ridiculous. So, I mean, just a guy like that just changes, the franchise. He just changes your image. He changes, the fan base. He changes the path to winning again. And again, as the NBA draft has always been in the recent years, it's always top heavy. I mean, the Bulls have been lucky to get Markkanen, lucky to get Wendell Carter, because those drafts were a little deeper. Everyone says the draft isn't deep now, but after March Madness, guys, their values goes up. But if you're not landing Zion or Morant from Murray State or RJ Barrett, right now the draft doesn't look so strong. So
I mean, like you said, it's really top heavy right now.
I mean, again, like I said, the values are gonna go up, but you just look at it, you're like, the Bulls can't get the fourth or fifth pick unless they package something there to move up because it's Zion or bust.
Right, and I mean, yeah, you'll see guys increase in value March Madness, obviously, but even if guys do you really think anyone is just going to suddenly surpass Zion? I think that's a big no.
No, Zion's the unanimous number one. RJ Barrett's close behind. Morant's right there from Murray State. And then there was a big man from Oregon. His season got cut short, but he was it was like Ball. I don't know if you ever seen that name before. He has like this, I don't know, it was like some weird name, but
I think I know who you're talking about.
Big men from Oregon. So I mean, those are the main guys in college basketball. But it's Zion or bust. I mean, he's people like to throw out their generational talent. It's probably still early to say that because he hasn't got to the next level yet. But I mean, that guy changes your franchise. He changes the future of the team easily. He impacts from day one.
Think about if he came here to Chicago. Think about it. Like, if he came to Chicago in this big market where Bulls fans go to games no matter what, imagine the popularity that he would have here.
Again, he'd be like a brand. There'd be Zion shirts day one.
Yeah, they'd be everywhere. It's like when the Bears got Khalil Mack, that day there were Khalil Mack jerseys all around the city. It would be the same thing with Zion.
I mean, Bears fans just got so much more devoted to their favorite team. It's like the fan base got it was just rejuvenated after getting Mack. As excited as everyone was to get back, after last season, just the growth of the Bears, and then they got Mack. I mean, it just rejuvenated everybody.
Oh yeah, it turned them from, hey, these guys can really improve, to, hey, these guys have a legitimate shot at the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be crazy if the Bulls got Zion, you got Machado on the south side, and you got Harper on the north side? I mean, Chicago would change completely.
Oh yeah, that would be sweet.
I still think the Sox are the best landing spot for Machado. I
think he's going there. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think
the only way I don't see that happening is if San Diego swoops in, but I think it's going to be the Sox.
Now the Padres are racing for everybody. I mean, they're coming out of nowhere.
Good for them, though. Honestly, I hope they reach for the stars.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, this is a big free agent class. There's still plenty of names out there, and some guys that you could call up and get trades for, like Kluber. I mean, there's so many names still thrown out there.
Sure, and they have a hell of a farm system.
No, it's the Padres, the Sox, and the Blue Jays. All those teams are up there at the top of the league for the farm systems right now. I mean, it's
10 top 100 guys in the Padres system. That's crazy. 10.
I remember when the Cubs were like that. Cubs, up and coming, and now everyone wants to complain about the Cubs system. It's terrible. Well, we've taken from the farm system and turned them into all pros. So what
else, series title?
Yeah, what else do you want us to do? I mean, you can't have the Cubs still got some guys. They got who's the catching prospect?
I don't remember his name, but people are talking about guys like Nico Horner and
Nico Horner. Oh my, he was in the running for the best shortstop in college baseball. He's been raking last season and this season. I mean, I think he's gonna come up pretty fast. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, all of a sudden if I mean, I doubt he's gonna be in the big leagues this year. But I mean, next year, in spring training, you got a chance to crack the roster. I mean,
Sure.
you can't keep guys like that down in the minors as much as you want to develop them. If he's going to impact and he's going to be, a guy who can play every 3 days, you got to put him in there.
I just wish he was a year older and a year down the road so it could come up this year. So you could move
Yeah.
Baez over to second, put Horner there, and give Russell the old heave ho. Because that would be one heck of an infield.
I mean, and again, if he is that talented, why not? If you're winning games and you're feeling good and you think this kid is going to make you even better, I mean, age isn't a factor as it is anymore. I mean, NBA guys are getting all-star bids at 19. Look at Jason Tatum. Age doesn't seem to be a problem when he's facing up against the big guys in the NBA.
Now, I feel like the stars of sports these days are just getting younger and younger. I mean, when I was a kid, your big stars were in their 30s. Now it's like they're all in their lower mid 20s.
Yeah, I mean that's good for all the leagues. I mean, especially the NHL. I mean, if you can skate and score goals at age 19, you got a spot. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. And you see how the superstars, they really kind of either zoom or ignore the farm system development. They just get right to the game.
Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau, Austin Matthews, those guys have never seen the AHL. They'll never even breathe the air.
I don't think Kane ever saw it. I think Kane came right up.
He was with the OHL. I mean, that's
the London Knights, yeah.
That's different. That's different developmental leagues. But no, he came right away.
Taze didn't spend much time down in the minors.
I mean, it's still funny to see guys like Kane, like one of the oldest guys at All-Star Weekend. He's hanging out with all the kids.
That's crazy because it felt like just yesterday he was that 20-year-old kid skating around the previous generation superstars.
Yeah.
I remember the first Hawks game I went to in 2008, Kane was a rookie and he was like 18, 19. And my dad's like, see that kid right there? He's going to be a star.
Yeah, and he was. He's at 30. He's 30 years old and he's still shooting for the Art Ross Trophy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think talking about Kane's a good transition to the Blackhawks.
Let's do it.
Blackhawks got a 3-game win streak. They're rolling, man. They're looking good.
Hey.
It's a season of moral victories. This season it's up and down to say the least. Alex and I were talking about before the show that the bottom of the NHL is just so crowded that the Hawks are 4 points out of the last place, but only 5 points out of the playoffs. But again, they got to climb like 7 or 8 teams to get to the last spot in the wild card. I mean, that's a tough climb. You got to hope that all those teams in front of you just totally bottom out, and then you're in the running. But I mean, it's just so close of competition that the Hawks just don't have it on the back end at the blue line to really, really make a push.
Well, see, that's the problem. It's not the points. You can say, 5 points, that's nothing. It's kind of something when you have to leapfrog several teams. I'm going to pull up the standings right now because it's frustrating. It really is. And it's disheartening to look at, but you got to look at reality. So you look at the Western Conference, and right now the second wild card, the last wild card, is the Colorado Avalanche. They're at 52 points. The Hawks have 47. But to get there, they would have to leapfrog St. Louis, Edmonton, Arizona, Anaheim, and Vancouver to even tie with Colorado.
Yeah. So
that would mean that's pretty much everybody else is ahead of you. The only team that you're better than right now is the LA Kings.
Yeah, and the Kings have they've started their rebuild, traded Muzzin.
Yep.
Big guy, part of their championships. He's gone. Got a good return from him. And then that puts in the question, are the Hawks going to, part with Keith? There was a report the other day that the Hawks are going to sit down and talk with Keith. And, the reporters, of course, when they see that they're going to go right to Keith, and Keith's going to give you the answer you all expected. I signed the contract. I'm here long term. I'm not going anywhere. But, things could change in the blink of an eye. And, Keith could sit down and say, if there's a contender out there that wants me, I mean, I guess I'd be cool for moving on. But, maybe, I'd love for Keith to be a Hawk for life. I want him to live out the contract just because he's giving you so much, and he's maybe the best defender in Hawks history. So, you don't want to see the team part with Keith as much as, his value is the best right now. Next year at this time at the deadline, he would not give you much if he wanted to trade. It's just because he's getting older, he's losing a step. But again, just like the Maple Leafs got Muzzin, Keith was in the discussion for the Maple Leafs because the Maple Leafs wanted some help with the blue line. And, guys like Muzzin and Keith were right in the conversation. Muzzin's gone. Is Keith the next guy to go somewhere?
I really don't think anyone's going to take on that contract, though. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah, but, everyone wants to say Keith's contract is a bargain, and it really is. He's getting paid like, what is it, like 5.7 annually? And looking at contracts for guys like, Brett Burns and Erik Karlsson, all those deals, I mean, Keith is a bargain, and I think contenders can deal with that bargain for the next 3 or 4 years.
The problem to me is not as much the money per year, it's the number of years, because he is signed through 2022, 2023. So he's basically going to be 40 by the time it's over. If he had like 2 years left on his contract, I think somebody gives the Blackhawks a call and legitimately discusses a trade there. But it's the fact that he's got, after this year, he's got 4 more years left on that deal, and he's 35 now. And look, I'll always love Duncan Keith. He will always be remembered as one of the best defensemen ever and an absolute essential cog in that dynasty. He will be nothing less than that. But, if you did move him and you got that contract off the books, that would free up some more space. And, I'd hate to see him go, but at the same time, I'd be like, well, if you're really going to rebuild this defense, then okay. But again, I don't see him getting moved.
Talking about rebuilding the defense, that is a reason I want to keep Keith around. I mean, he might, find himself, with less minutes in the coming years, but he's a guy with, 3 cups, and I think you want a guy like him teaching Yoki Haru and Mitchell and Boquist and Badoon for the next couple years. Because, right now, Keith and Yoki Haru, that pairing is the second best of the Hawks all season. I did not like when Colleton went away from that. Colleton, pairing him up, Colleton pairing Keith and Seabrook gives you great memories of the cup runs, but those guys can't skate with each other anymore. Keith
it just doesn't work.
No, Keith's still a top 4 guy. Keith can give you, his minutes like he usually can. Seabrook is the guy who can't keep up with him anymore.
And that's the deal that looks a lot worse when you look at it.
Yeah, Seabrook was a tough one. Seabrook here in the deal. I'm not going to hate on Seabrook for earning that deal.
Of course not.
He deserved his money, but you didn't think the downfall would be as bad as it was. And I think everyone just likes to throw out, I think, Seabrook gets a lot of hate for that contract, not like right to his face, but just the surrounding media presence of fans and just all the outside noise. I still think Seabrook's a, pretty good defenseman. He does make, the occasional mistake, and it seems like whenever there is a mistake, Seabrook seems to be on the ice. But, I'm not gonna hate on Seabs. I still love Keith and Seabrook, always will, and I want, those guys still to be Blackhawks just because, once those guys are gone, then you realize the core is gone, the dynasty's gone, and you don't want to reach that point just because, you love the team so much. But Seabrook's contract is an eyesore, and it will be for the coming years because just because of the production. And the only really time that you could say Seabrook could be dealt is probably the next expansion draft when Seattle's looking to reach the cap floor, and they might need a bigger contract because they might not be able to sign any big guys in the first year, just like Vegas.
Right.
Vegas, their expansion draft, they're getting a lot of young guys off the rosters that teams don't want. And who knows where the cap's going to be.
And that's in what, 2 years?
2, yeah.
Yeah.
The cap's going to jump to 84. But let's say it keeps going. You're looking at maybe if the NHL cap can raise to 90, 91 by the time the new draft's here, you're going to need some money to eat it up. And again, the Hawks players love Seabrook. He's a great guy. He's a great teammate. They love him in the locker room. Kane has come out in the past week or so about talking about when people ask him about Seabrook's contract and his production. Kane says Seabrook's the guy who keeps us all together. He's a core pillar of that locker room. mean, is a huge. He means a lot to the Blackhawks. So I mean, if you would move him, that'd be the only time you could really move him because, just because the next couple of years his numbers fluctuate with base salary and signing bonus, and you could always give him the money. You would just convert it somewhere else to save yourself some money. But I mean, it wouldn't be a stupid move for Seattle to acquire a couple old men, just to for the locker room presence, and
Sure.
they could play once or twice a week, but nothing more. But that's really when you're only going to move Seabrook. Duncan Keith right now is the guy of the core that is an asset you can move, and you can live with, and you can get a pretty good return for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, no matter what you get for Duncan Keith, even if you don't get that many assets, I just think that it would be nice to have a bit more cap room. I think that would be the overall goal, is clearing some of that cap room. But hey, I'm looking right now on capfriendly.com, as I know you like that website a lot. And there are really 4 guys right now that are making a lot of, well, okay, I guess 5 if you count Brandon Saad, but Taze and Kane are making a little over 10. They deserve it. I'm not even mad about that. Saad's going to be making $6 million for the next 2 years, and then Keith and Seabrook. But after that, the Hawks are going to have some room to work with in the coming off season. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, they're going to have some cap to live with, and Taze and Kane are still, looks like, no signs of slowing down. And you got to surround them with younger pieces. You got to surround them with more scorers, and you got to fix the back end. And hopefully you're back in the playoff picture next year, and maybe you get one more contending year, maybe in 2 years, 3 years for Kane and Taze's last hurrah. So it's going to be interesting. The Hawks have some pieces they can move outside of Keith. Who someone might want Gustafsson. Gustafsson's got some pretty good offensive awareness. His defense isn't that good. But if the Hawks decide to keep Gustafsson, they got a pretty good bargain for next year. He's signed to under $2 million, so that's pretty good. You're looking at lowball guys like Hayden, Martinson, Kruger, Kampf, Kunitz, guys that are you can move to a contender that they can give some bottom 6 minutes, but you're probably not going to get much for them. So that's why, if the Hawks really want to kind of kickstart the retool or the rebuild or whatever you want to call it, Keith would be your best option.
Yeah.
But again, they're going to sit down with Keith, and I fully expect them to say no, just because, it's a lot more than hockey. You got a family grounded here, and, he signed the contract to be here long term. And it looks like so far Taze and Kane are, they're the guys at the mic every night. They're keeping their composure. They're dealing with the struggles. Keith's had an interview in the Athletic. He was talking about like the Devils. The Devils were good this year. They're bad last year, and we got killed by the Devils. The life in the NHL is different every day. And St. Louis Blues are supposed to be killer this year, and look what happened.
Yeah,
they were doing terrible for a stretch. They got, they got Tarasenko. They got Ryan Reeves. They had everything going for them. They had a great offseason. It's just like you could say the same for the Cubs this year. The offseason, everybody was moving forward besides the Hawks. Just like everyone is making moves in the Central besides the Cubs.
Right.
So, you think those teams are going to have good years, but, again, life in the NHL is different every day.
Yeah, you look at some of those teams over the years, like the Lightning and the Bruins, where they were top dog, then they fell off real hard for a season or two, and then they were able to retool back. So it can happen in the NHL.
Yeah. So, when you're looking at the Hawks right now, Cap Friendly says they got around $14 million in cap. They got, they'll have Ward and Kunitz off the books next year, so that's like around another 4. If you move on from Gustafsson, that's probably 6. You got some RFAs, Perlini and Kampf. But, again,
those aren't even like uber expensive.
No. And then, the cap's going to go up. So, you're going to add to the 14. And the Hawks are going to have, a nice $20 million plus. I mean, you can really spend big on a big forward like, Panarin or Mark Stone. You could, obviously also go the restricted free agency route and give an offer sheet to a guy like Mitch Marner out of the Maple Leafs if you really wanted to, even though the Maple Leafs are keeping their cap open for guys like Marner and Matthews. And I don't
Here's
think
a
there's
question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that it is either possible or worth it, you could answer both, to try to pursue an Erik Karlsson this offseason?
I think it's all possible. I mean, Carlson's still one of the best defensemen in the NHL. And he carries like that big brand. He's just such a good player. But, I think where the Hawks are at, you really want to try to get younger. And again,
Right.
we've seen kind of Keith and Seabrook, once they reach that certain age, you lose a step. And it's not like Carlson's losing that step yet. And,
And he's going to get a nice payday, let's face it.
And, who knows what his stance right now is with
San Jose.
Yeah. It's basically a 1-year tryout and seeing if he likes it there. And so far there's been reports saying that he doesn't like it there. No one's really saying that he wants out. So I mean, he really could sign there long term. But a guy like Karlsson, a guy like Panarin, a guy like Stone, they're gonna want to be locked up. They're gonna want, to be grounded somewhere. So,
The Artemi Panarin stuff is getting interesting because it sounds like he really doesn't have any interest in staying in Columbus, and the fans are kind of pissed about it.
Yeah. I mean, I would be too. I mean, it's like saying if Kane said tomorrow that he wants to get out of Chicago, you'd be
right.
mad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Karlsson, he's 28. He's still playing really good hockey, but again, that guy's going to want to be grounded, and I don't want to give an 8-year deal to have Karlsson here until the age of 39. I mean, as much as Keith and Seabrook earn their deals, you kind of see where that kind of age is, where some guys guys are going to fall off their game. It's like we all say, athletes, they start to diminish when they're 30. We have that, for some reason, someone set the benchmark of 30 years old, and we've just ran with it. We thought days were going to be a little bit slower this year just because number 30 is it's a big number in sports. I mean, it really is.
They're having their best years of their career.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing lights out, especially Kaner had what, 4 points last night?
He's got over 900 in his career now. He's got 30 goals on the season with 22 games left to play. I mean, he can reach the 50 goal marker.
Yeah, he really could. But yeah, I mean, Panarin obviously wants out. He's going to wait till free agency to talk to him, and I doubt how much time he's going to give Columbus. He's going to want a bigger market, and Chicago's got the space, and I mean, you're thinking about if Panarin's got hurt feelings about leaving, or if he, is someone going to see the business side of it, and Panarin's going to want to come back.
I think he'd want to come back. Personally, that's just my hunch. I think he would.
And, everyone's talked to Kane a lot about it. Kane was very upset when he left, of course, because you give Panarin to a guy like Kane on his line, and then, you're having you're having some of the best years of your career, and then all of a sudden he's stripped away. What does that say? What does that say to Kane? What does that say to the team? So, I mean, that was tough when you see a guy like Panarin go, but, you trade him, you get Sauter back, and you're like, okay, we got Sauter at a bigger discount than we got Panarin. Maybe he's not going to be as skilled offensively as Panarin, but, Sauter's a two-way player, where Panarin is more of a one-way guy.
Yeah, he's a pure scorer.
Yeah, pure scorer. I mean, Saad's not a pure scorer, but he's gonna, people like to say, Saad is like, even with the cup runs when Saad was a part of it, he was like the mini Hossa. He's gonna be active on the defensive end, and he's gonna give you some offensive production.
Right. I mean, they called him mini Hossa for a reason. Obviously, he's not as good as him, but you watch Saad, he can play some really solid defense as a forward. I went to a game last year where he had several just beautiful turnovers generated that led to goals. And obviously, Panarin is the one that just scores. And obviously, he generates a lot of shots on goal, and those generate a lot of assists. But, if the thing with Brandon Saad is a lot of people were really mad that, he wasn't putting up Panarin type stuff. And, he never really will in terms of goals. And it was frustrating last year, him not even scoring 20, but he's one goal away from scoring his mark last year. So he's at least looked better this year. He's looked more like Brandon Saad.
Yeah, he has. And he does. A lot of things I like to say about Saad is he's not as flashy as Taves and Canner, but he does a lot of the little things well, leads to a lot of chances. He puts together some, really good shifts throughout games. You're like, that's the Saad we know and love. So, I mean, again, Saad's another guy that people want to throw around and say, he's Dan Bowman's biggest chip at the deadline. You could probably, again, get a good haul for Sauter because of his skill, his age, and his cap hit is just, it would be very cheap for forwards right now. I mean, you're looking at Panarin, who's going to probably demand 10-5 or higher, but you can get Brandon Saad at $6 million. Teams are going to throw you some assets.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they want to get Panarin back, that they may try to sell Saad. I love Brandon Saad. He's one of my absolute favorite players, but I feel like going into this year, and I still feel like it now, that he was kind of a guy to hope to put up better numbers, because if you look long term, you could deal him for value. I mean, I think people forget what a playoff hero that guy was in 2015 and in 2014. Even though they didn't win the cup, he put up some incredible numbers in the playoffs, scored some really clutch goals.
Yeah.
But think about it. After this year, he's got 2 more years left, making $6 million each. If he continues to play pretty well, I think he could have some some value, and you can trade him for that.
Yeah, I mean, if they really did want to trade him, if they really were going full rebuild, and you got the no trade clauses waived by the core guys, then you really start moving the assets and you really start back from the ground up. But
the other guy that I'd hoped would be a trade piece, even last year, but the numbers just aren't there this year. You probably know who I'm thinking of right now. I thought Artem Anisimov would be another very interesting trade chip, but the numbers are not there this year.
Yeah, he was a bigger trade chip last year.
That's when I thought he should have been traded.
Yeah,
and I love Artem Anisimov, but he had his value really high last year.
Yeah, and he's looked a little better playing on the wing than center, again with Strome and Kaner.
But still, the numbers just aren't there overall.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Anisimov was a nice piece when we sent off Panarin. I thought he was a good piece. I mean, he's been pretty soft and he's been consistent.
You look at his numbers the past few years before this year here in Chicago, 20 goals in 15-16, 16-17, 22, last year 20. He's not an assist machine, but he scored 45 points in 2016, 2017. So, pretty productive guy.
Yeah, but when you look at his cap hit, he's really not. He probably could be, a borderline, maybe, second line center, but for the Hawks in some situations, he's down there on the third line, and he's getting a nice buck. He's getting his annual cap hit is 4.5, and that's for 2 more years after this season. So again, and he's 30, so it's not like it's impossible to deal him. It's just that you're always going to ask for the higher value than someone wants to give you. But I mean, who knows between now and the deadline if it's going to pick up any traction. And again, with him, is he has a modified no trade movement, so we can only he gives you a list of 10 teams,
right?
And that expires at the end of the year. So everyone likes everyone's all the writers are saying, yeah, Anisimov could be a trade chip, but I'd say look for him closer to draft time. Look in the offseason maybe for them to move, and then teams are going to be more willing to make some moves in the offseason and bring guys into camp. So I think he could be a guy in the offseason. But, he could pick up traction at the deadline. Again, he'd be a great third-line center for a contender.
If he doesn't get traded this offseason or this year, you think next year when that modified no trade clause expires, if he could put up some really good numbers next year, it's going to depend on where the Hawks are.
Yeah.
If they're contending again next year, they may want to keep him. If not, they may try to sell him if he's putting up good numbers, or he may be doing decently well and they're contending, but you want to trade for a more solid veteran, maybe he is thrown in there too. But so
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways it could go.
Yeah. I still think this offseason would be a good shot. Again, that frees up 4.5 on the cap. I
Oh,
forgot.
you also don't forget Marcus Kruger too. He's last year is this year. He's an unrestricted free agent
Yeah,
going into next year.
Krug is gone as much as I loved Krug back in the day. He's eating up a bit of cap. He's getting paid 2.7 this year.
Yeah,
Krug got
for
a nice
mainly
buck.
being a penalty killer and a fourth line center, it
Yeah,
just sorry, Krugs. It's
yeah,
thank you for your double OT goal against the Ducks and all the penalty kills in the cup run, but yeah, that's bye bye.
yeah. I mean, that's how some guys make a living, killing penalties, man. It's rough living, but he got it done, and he was a big part.
He was. I can't deny that he was during those cup runs. I just think going forward, there's really no need to pay $2+ million to Marcus Kruger.
Yeah. Um. So that was some good deadline talk for the Bulls and the Blackhawks as we near end of the show here. We also said we were going to talk about the Super Bowl and the Cubs. Big thing with the Cubs today is yet another Bryce Harper rumor came up, Alex, that Harper met with the Cubs brass on Friday after with the Padres interview, kind of to circle back and tell them about his offers and see what the Cubs are going to do. And I think it was reported a long time ago that the Cubs are going to be in Harper till the very end. I think that's going to be it. Even though they might not be one of the landing spots, you're still going to make calls. You're still going to circle back. And I've read a couple times now that Harper will check back with the Cubs before he makes his final decision, because who knows if the Cubs' minds could change. They're like, you know what, that offer is not so bad. Your highest offer, we can deal with that. So I think it's going to be interesting till the end. I think it's going to drag on like Darvish. It's going to be.
It already has. I mean,
yeah. I think it's going to be another week or so before Harper finds a team. But it's crazy. Like when wasn't it like Machado who said he'd wait till like the first of the year to decide, and now it's in February.
Yeah.
Machado said he was going to decide right out of the new year,
and it looked like in the new year it was a for sure Yankee, and then
yeah, and that fell out. I mean, I was talking to my guys at work like every day. I think today's the day. Today might be the day he moves, and he hasn't still.
No.
But so that Cub rumor was out today that he met with the Cubs, but Patrick Mooney from The Athletic quickly denied that and said that his sources told him that it didn't happen. After, it's been a while now that I've kind of given up hope on Harper. I felt like the Cubs were really, really in on him at the start of free agency and toward the end of the year when it was kind of building up steam. But, the Ricketts don't want to go over the luxury tax. They just don't. They're not going to be the Dodgers or the Yankees who are just going to deal with it. They just don't want to spend the money, and we just got to live with it. I believe in this team. I believe in Madden. I think we're still going to be one of the best teams in the NL, but of course you want to add a superstar like Harper.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm not even really taking any Cubs Harper rumors seriously at this point, because I think the best way to approach this is don't even think about it. Don't even think that there's a possibility, because 99.9% chance it's not happening. It's just, so I've moved on from that aspect, and I'm really right now just looking at the Cubs saying, okay, go get another lefty reliever, go get a backup veteran catcher, and if you can add any more depth you can, do it. But signing a big guy, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, who did the Cubs sign the other day? They got another righty.
Yeah, Tony Barnett.
Yeah,
I think that's his name.
I don't know too much about him, but I mean, it was another righty. The Cubs are already stacked with righties in the pen.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, I would like another lefty. You got to be able to mix and match. You got to be able to have versatility in there.
Go get Tony Sipp or Jerry Blevins.
Yeah, just anybody. I mean, there's still a ton of names out there just besides Harper and Machado.
Because who are you going to rely on? If you look at the lefties in the bullpen right now, you have a swingman in Mike Montgomery, who's going to be, in between each.
Yeah.
And you have Brian Dunsing and Randy Rosario. You really want to rely on all that?
You can't rely on it, but Rosario gave you some good stuff. I thought I don't mind Dunsing, but he's
Oh, he
not.
was awful last year, but I don't know what it'll be like this year.
Yeah, I mean, the bad starts overwhelmed the solid outings, but I think but again, you can't put Dunsing out there every other day. He can maybe be a once or twice week kind of guy. But yeah, I mean, you can't rely on those names. You gotta get somebody else there. We got a pretty strong righty group. I mean, we do. I
Yeah,
think our righties. I mean, I think our righties could be one of the. I think the Cubs bullpen could really be one of the best bullpens in the league again in terms of ERA. I think they have it, especially when you look down at the stretch at guys that are going to be pitching in the seventh, eighth, and ninth with Strop and Cizek and when Morrow gets back. I think they're going to be just fine down there.
Brad Brock looks like it's going to be a good signing.
Yeah, him too. But when you look at the upper guys, and like is Chatwood going to be much of a factor? Montgomery's been up and down. Carl Edwards Jr.
I think right now is a huge X factor. Carl Edwards Jr.
Yeah.
He is a huge X factor. We see how good that kid can be. You look at some of the months he had last year, the best hitters in the world couldn't even come close to hitting him. And then a few months later, he couldn't come close to hitting the strike zone.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to find consistency there. But the stuff is there. The potential is there. You look at the ERA and FIP numbers, they're all really good. But you look at the whip and the base on balls per nine, that, is not good.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say the Cubs are done adding some pieces. Once spring training comes along, the market's going to fold again. Guys are going to be just, they're going to be want to get back on the diamond. So, they'll add some more guys in spring training because
go get Martin Maldonado as your backup catcher. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's an intriguing name. But I mean, there's a lot of guys going to be competing for those last couple bullpen spots because, Rosario's not a for sure, Kitzler's not a for sure, Dunsing. I mean, there's a couple spots in that pen that's open, and I'm not gonna push out some AAA guy if he's having a really good spring training. Get up here, see what you can do, and if not, we're gonna send you back down. But I mean, I think that's gonna be the most competitive spot in spring training this year is gonna be the bullpen. Everything else is pretty much set.
Yeah, you're gonna have guys like George Contos and Tiniki Tazawa kind of competing in spring training.
Yeah.
If you could get anything out of those guys, great. If you don't, you don't really lose anything.
No, exactly. You're seeing what you can gain. Yeah, so that was the big news for the Cubs today. Was another Harper rumor. I mean, we can't even really believe the beat writers anymore, just because whatever their sources are saying. I mean, their sources were saying a couple weeks ago that they're close to signing, and look where we at now.
Well, yeah, I mean, you had the whole thing about the White Sox Manny Machado offer, and everyone's like, "No, it's this. No, it's this. No, this was never offered. No, this was offered." Who the hell knows what's going on?
I'm not saying it's bad or important. I mean, those guys are in on the business. They have solid sources. It's just that at this point, nobody cares until ESPN, on my phone tells me where he's going.
Right.
Last couple minutes here, we'll hit up the Super Bowl. It's so hard for me to say the Rams are going to win tomorrow. It just is.
I think they have a better chance than some people are giving them, but in the end, I'm picking the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, my money is safe with the Patriots. Let's put it that way.
Well, I mean, the thing to think about is the Patriots now have a really good run game, and you know what? Their defense ain't shabby either.
No,
you don't need Tom Brady to be fantastic. You just need him to keep you in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots got Michelle, Burkhead, White. I mean, they always seem to have versatility at every position. It's crazy.
The other thing is the Rams have a lot of great talent on that team. I just feel like they're very top heavy. So if you shut down either Goff or Gurley, you're going to beat them.
Yeah, and right away, the moment is going to be very big for them. That's a lot of young guys on that team, a lot of guys who haven't been to that stage yet.
Yeah, that's true. And what, Tom Brady's been there 9 times now? Can you believe that? 9 times.
Yeah, I mean, get a win tomorrow and six bowls. That's history. I mean, I'd love to see history in the making. I'm not, of course, a lot of us are not the biggest Tom Brady fans, but Um, the last couple Super Bowls have been really, really good games, and I just hope it's that way tomorrow too. I love great football. I mean, I hated the Super Bowl with the Broncos and the Seahawks. Just hated it.
Oh, that was a complete blowout. It wasn't even fun at all. The
No.
only fun thing was the safety on the first play, which has like never happened before. And
Yeah.
anyone who put money on that in Vegas got like millions.
But I mean, I'm just hoping for another good bowl tomorrow. I mean, that's always the fun of it. And as as sad as it is that it ends the football season, it's the granddaddy of them all. And if I were a betting man, I'd put my money on the Patriots. But I hope the Rams give them hell.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, kind of like what you said, I just want to see a classic. I want to watch the game where I can tell my kids I was doing this with these people when this happened.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to be telling generations where I was when the Bears lost against the Eagles.
Yeah, I'd say there's always the good and bad side to where and when you were.
I was at Riley's, actually.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Old Riley's.
I was there. Here's the funny thing. Riley's, I've seen some of the greatest wins and some of the most utter defeats. I saw Double Doink at Riley's. I also saw the Cubs win the pennant there in 2016.
Yeah, there's always that one spot where you got the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows.
Yep.
So yeah, big game tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a shootout. I'd like to see a shootout as much as I love takeaways and sacks, but if they're going back and forth, hey, let's see who can get in the end zone more. I'm all for it.
For sure.
So yeah, we're about out of time here. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good talk on the NBA deadline, NHL, talking about the Hawks, Keith. The Hawks are going to come and talk to Duncan Keith, whether it was yesterday or today, about his future. And it wouldn't really shock me, Alex, if he wanted to move on. But I really think Keith is grounded here. I think he wants to stay. And
I think so too.
I want him to stay. I'm not ready to part with him yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere.
No. And, that's the Hawks' biggest asset. And I'm sure as happy as they are to keep him, they might be just as sad not to get rid of him, because if they really want to kickstart the retool, the rebuild, whatever they're going to call it, he's their biggest chip. But you can't be upset when your franchise guy and Keith wants to stay. It shows that he's loyal to the team and he wants to go through the retool no matter how bad it hurts.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can't hold them against him.
No. So we got that. NHL deadline's a little farther away, but NBA deadline's Thursday. Bulls have some assets. But again, like we said earlier, the cap number is in the way of them moving those guys. So, not seeing anything out of the Bulls, just unless something really comes across my screen or all across all of our screens, like something crazy, like now they're in play for AD or they're clearing space. Who knows what's going to happen? Something's going to happen. I mean, look at Kristaps Porzingis the other day. All of a sudden, we're getting a deal 30 minutes after the report.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that was like a snap of a finger.
That moved pretty fast. I texted somebody earlier in the day the screenshot of the Woj tweet, like they're close to a deal. They texted me a couple hours later, like, wait, it actually happened?
Yeah, it's nuts.
It moved pretty fast. And stuff like that in the NBA, just so much drama. I love it. I love deadline time.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Fun time. So yeah, we talked about that. We hit on the Cubs a little bit. Bryce Harper rumor today about him meeting with the Cubs on Twitter that everyone's seen, denied by multiple sources.
Denied. Wah.
Wah. So we'll see where he goes. I still think, I've been saying it for a while, Alex, I'm going Machado to the White Sox, Harper to the Phillies.
Same.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to end up. The Padres all of a sudden are coming in. They got a lot of money. But, I mean, those camps have been talking to the Sox and Phillies for a long, long time. So I think that's where they're going.
You can forget the Yankees, I think, with Machado.
Yeah, I think Yankees are done. They moved on when we saw them adding all those veteran pieces.
Yeah,
they're tooling up for another run, but they're just out on the stars.
For sure.
And then lastly, Alex and I hit on the Super Bowl. We both have picked the Patriots. We probably both put our life savings on the Patriots. But we're hoping for a good game. Super Bowl is always great. We've had some great ones in the past couple years. And, I mean, we both think it could be a shootout tomorrow. And, why not?
Go for it.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it, Alex. Thanks for hopping on this afternoon. And
yeah, for sure.
I'll talk to you soon, man. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. And have a good one.